I'm going to switch this view for 1 second so that it's both of us. Hi, this is Karen Powers from the Mindful Earthkeeper, and I'm here with one of my collaborators, Dr. Lisa Wipplinger, and today we're going to be talking about make restoration a lifestyle. And so I'm going to go and switch into the share screen mode and hope this works, that we can record. And I'm using a PDF today rather than the PowerPoint that we could have used on this. And so today was just talking about brief reminder to practice restoration daily. And I know Lisa and I, now you can see us kind of in the corner on the screen, do practice restoration. I just want to say a little bit about Lisa. Lisa's been working in the field of sustainability for quite a while. She's now located out of Seattle. You can kind of see the Space Needle in the background of her picture. And I'm out of Aurora, Illinois. And it's fun to be able to work across the country and across the world with different people. And Lisa also is the director of the Water Center, National Water Center down in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. So you're doing some pretty cool things there while you're still in your Seattle, and we can talk about some more things as time goes on. But today we're just going to talk about how do we make restoration a lifestyle. And so I'm going to go through a lot of different ideas, very simple ideas, and then we're going to talk about some ways to actually start working with each other on this restorative lifestyle journey. And I liked this quote by Anne Lamott: "Where do we even start on the daily walk of restoration and awakening? We start where we are." And I think so many of us want to start where we think we should be. and we're mad because we're not the most restorative person in the world. And so I wanted to give each of us permission to be where we are and to be on this journey of living restoratively. And so these are some ideas around restorative lifestyle that Lisa and I play with, have been for a couple years, about how do you live a restorative lifestyle in a deeply satisfying way. And part of it, and I know Lisa has her own way of mapping her day, and I have mine, is that you map your day. You don't necessarily go into great detail on it, and you might choose just 2 or 3 things to work on restoratively. I know you use a planner for this, Lisa. I don't know if you want to mention that at all.
I do. I use it's a specific planner that I actually like quite a bit, that has a place where you spend time on gratitude every morning, and you focus on, so what are you doing for wellness today? What are you doing that's fun today? And then what are your priorities on your to-do list? And one of the cool things about it is the space for the to-do list is not super long. So I know a lot of us have a tendency to overpopulate our to-do list, which is counterproductive. And so this has actually been really helpful for me to keep my list fairly short for a day, to things that are the most important and that I can actually accomplish.
My way of doing it is I put a piece of paper, which is maybe not so restorative, but I do the whole week, and I do 3 or 4 things a day, but it's the similar thing. And then I do a lot of journaling, which we'll go into later. But I think it's really cool because one of the challenges we have is we can get overwhelmed with restoration and like, what are we going to do? And we try to do too much. And so I liked your book. Is it Evo? Is that the planner? Evo, EVO?
Yeah, EVO, yes.
Yeah, I don't use it, but
and it's way more involved than I gave you, like the really short version. There's a lot more to it.
What's cool about yours is that you do process your day. Like if we go to step 3 here, that planner helps you process your day as well, doesn't it?
It does, yes, at the end of the day.
I'm not plugging Evo planners per se, but that's something to look into. There's other ways to do that, but I think we'll talk a little bit more about that as time goes on. And but I just think that there is this link between deep satisfaction and restorative lifestyle that a lot of people who are trying to be mindful earth keepers forget. That part of the reason we're doing it is to create a deeply satisfying lifestyle and to be a role model for other people, so they'll want to be more restorative. And so let's talk about this a little bit too. A restoration lifestyle moves us out of an inaction. And I think the challenge, that's why planning can be helpful. Not everyone's a planner. But it is a way of helping us to focus on our actions and then to focus on practice and deep learning as an ongoing lifestyle. It's not just something you do once and you decide I'm going to be a zero waste person. For instance, I know one of my other collaborators is really further into zero waste than I am. But it's a process. And even for her who's really far along, and I think you're pretty good at that too, Lisa, is that it's a process of continuously thinking about your lifestyle. And so it's not something you reach and you just never have to do it. And so we're going to talk today a little bit about some really simple ways to practice restoration. Not all of them are eco-friendly the way I care about things, but one of them is to keep a daily restoration journal. This is something I think Lisa and I do this sometimes when we meet on the Fridays, is set an intention for what you will restore each day is something we can do. I tend to probably do it a little bit more weekly than I do on a particular day, but then I go back and look at what I'm going to focus on in each day. But it does really help me when I set intentions on what I want to accomplish. And then you have to notice what works and doesn't work. And this is where I think the law of attraction can be a distraction for some people, but like they think, well, it just should be easy and you don't have to, modify what you're doing, but the real part of being human is realizing what works and doesn't work. And while staying consistent with your goals, and you make adjustments because you're flexible. And then of course, every day, if possible, maybe even several times a day, celebrate that you're part of the healing and rebalancing of our world. We know it needs it. Look around us. The pandemic has certainly pointed out a lot of imbalances that were already there before it ever hit. And so we know we're needed. In one way or another, we're all needed. I don't know if do you keep a journal at all, Lisa? Not everybody does.
I do keep a journal. I'm not incredibly consistent.
Well,
Although again, I have been using my planner, which has journaling space in it. So I have been recording thoughts and ideas in there, kind of in lieu of a journal. My journal tends to be more like, I don't know, when the mood strikes me, or I have a big inspiration, or or something like that. Whereas I'm using the kind of planner for kind of the daily, weekly stuff.
Well, and I think some people can learn from that. I know I was watching my son had a journal, and I'd never seen him journal before. And I being a bad parent, I looked at his journal and I saw that he just wrote like 1 or 2 sentences a day. And that's how he was doing it. And so I think it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be this.
No, yeah, I think that is I think a lot of times when we think, I need to journal, it feels like, oh, I need to sit down and write pages, but
Yeah.
but that's not always true. So it can help you get started to just write a sentence or a few thoughts a day, or even a week.
Yeah, start where you can is on that. Just keeping track of it's a way of noticing your life while it's going by so that you're not just speeding through life. And that moves into engage in a mindfulness practice every day. We at the Mindful Earthkeeper try to give different kinds of practices to our community, including this whole video is something we want to give to folks who are giving us their intention. And one of the things we're starting to do is have a meeting on Fridays. Lisa and I tend to show up for that. So if you want to meet us in person, you can come on Friday mornings. It's at 8:30 Central or 6:30 in Pacific time. Is that what it is?
That's what it is.
That's what it is, but just once a week. So if you're in Pacific time, it's not that tough. And we all know some of these benefits of mindfulness, that it's restorative. It helps us to focus, to be more creative. But we do sometimes have to find the right practice for us. During March, we're going to be focusing on the shamatha meditation, which isn't right for everyone, but it's really a very ancient and basic practice of restoring balance to our minds and allowing ourselves to know ourselves. But in April and other months, we're going to be focusing on different things. I'm thinking in April, it's going to be the body scan meditation, different kinds of body scans. It does happen to be the time when we have Earth Day in April. And we're going to be doing a restorative lifestyle challenge, which I'll mention a little bit more at the end of this. The other thing that I think as restorative people, or people who want to be restorative, is that we need to connect to the love that inspires us to be who we want to be. Maybe not who we are even now in this moment. And so we need to look at the connections that we make in life that connect us to love. And sometimes that's our work. Sometimes it's the people in our lives. Sometimes for some people, it's really their pets. You know, they get more love and connection with pets or wildlife or being in nature. And so part of being, I think, a mindful earth keeper is really looking at what connects us to love and to each other. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Lisa, but I think it's kind of a self-evident one. And then one of the things that I think we're beginning to notice more and more is this idea of considering justice, that restoration moves us in the direction of fairness and freedom and balance for all people, not just for ourselves. And so this starts to get us connected to the broader ecology of the world. And I know that it's something that we're trying to move into with Mindful Earthkeeper. I can't say that I'm as far as I'd like to be on this. When I was working on the sustainability plan update for my city of Aurora, Illinois, one of the things we put in was environmental justice to the plan, which was not in there before. So I was really proud to put that in the plan. I'm trying to create little projects to move environmental justice into our city, but the pandemic had a way of stopping a lot of things. So that's kind of on pause at the moment. I don't know if you have anything to say about environmental justice or justice in general, if that's.
Well, there are actually, yeah. So it is as you've mentioned, quite a focus right now for good reason. And so there are a number of organizations that are focused on this or have this as part of their programs, part of what they're trying to do. So one that I'm involved with is called International Living Future Institute, which is about regenerative, restorative building of our built environment and communities. But they also have a really strong just program that addresses this specifically and in context with our built environments. So that's just one example. There are a number of organizations, like I said, that now that are looking at this. So it can be pretty easy to get involved and also to connect it to your area of interest, your area of passion, because justice is connected to everything in our lives, right? So that's my little
point. Thank you for your blurb, and that's a really good point because, and you're kind of in the. It's not your only thing, but the built environment and eco community is a piece of what you're doing, a big piece of what you're doing. So
yes,
for bringing that in there. That's not quite my specialty, but that's why I love working with Lisa. And then this one is also somewhat self-evident that if we're a mindful earth keeper, we're going to want to appreciate and align with nature. And I suspect that most of the people who are watching this are some way doing something to stay aligned with nature. It hasn't been, again, easy in this last month, especially if you were in a city and you couldn't even walk along the lakefront for months on end. It has been a challenging time. But I do think we're moving into a time where we're going to be able to reconnect with nature if we haven't been able to. And for some of us, I think looking at it was so snowy in February in Chicago area that it felt like we were trapped inside in a certain sense. And so looking outside was kind of what we did, and shoveling snow. But there are ways, even in these times where you feel trapped, to do some connecting. And part of what I would do is just to look up at the sky and feel the connection to the stars at night when I was able to see the stars. So that's just one thing that we can easily do every day. We can, as the pandemic unrolls, we can do something that aligns us with nature and restores us. And this is sort of connected to what we were discussing before, is that we want to connect ourselves with a vision of what a restorative lifestyle means for us. And each of us is an individual. And one of the things that I don't have in these slides, but we're going to be talking about this month in the Mindful Earthkeeper is the idea of creating a resource map of what you have as resources and how do you impact other resources. And so that's part of our visioning, is looking at how we uniquely interact with the world around us. And this is going to be one way to do that. And then you start to map your vision of how you could be more restorative into practices. We'll be doing that next month in a little bit of a challenge. We'll be having a series of videos and meetings in the the first full week of April, starting April 5th. And then there'll be a little bit of a challenge for that month to do something that moves you further into a restorative lifestyle that's deeply satisfying. And that's what we'll be doing, is practicing. And of course you're practicing now. And I think that for me, practicing restoration makes my life more meaningful. And I feel that I'm becoming more of a solution than the problem. And I don't know if you have any thoughts about meaning and restoration, but it feels very core to me to be doing restorative practices. And maybe it's a calling. I don't want to say that everyone should have to be this way, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Lisa.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it is also important to me and part of what I actually enjoy doing. So, and I do think it's important as we move forward for our society and for the earth. And I don't think that it has to be focused all outward. I think that's part of what we're talking about here. Is a lot of this is focused inward, and how are you restoring yourself as well as your environment so that you can live your best life.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way of saying that. I'm going to see where we're next. And that's more of what you're saying, is that restoration really needs to be an integral part of our well-being. If it's something that feels like you're really taking yourself out of your well-being, that probably isn't such a great idea to keep doing that. You can't maintain that forever. You will get burnt out. I know I've had that experience. And for me, community is a piece of it. Eco-community is something that Lisa's working on specifically in a different way than I have been. But I think without community, there can be no restoration. But the community doesn't necessarily have to be your local community, because sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get into the right group that fits you. So that's part of the reason Mindful Earthkeeper exists, is to help people who want to interact with people maybe around the country, around the world, and to find just a different community. It may not be your only community either. I think each of us has different communities, but this is a very fairly specifically focused one on mindful earthkeeping, and just how do you stay strong and healthy as a mindful earthkeeper? How do you stay mindful? How do you stay as an earthkeeper? And it's easy to get pulled out of those things. And so that's the purpose of this community. And so what I wanted to do with this short little simple guide that we did and our presentation today is just to remind you that a focus on restoration can change your life for the better. And it's a good idea to start today if you feel like you need some more restoration. And to me, a restorative lifestyle is the miracle catalyst for personal and collective evolution. I don't think, and I think it's the set of practices and choices that will lead us to a brighter new era. I feel I'm certainly not alone in thinking this. Lisa thinks this. A lot of the folks who are collaborating with me are looking for this. And we're really the creators of the catalyst for ourselves. And then each of us becomes a miracle catalyst for someone else. That's really my purpose and goal with the Mindful Earthkeeper in general, and I think each of us, is that we want to spark someone else to be a miracle catalyst as well. And so that it's just like this continuing spark and support for each other. And I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say to end this little presentation today, but I thought I'll leave you one final word if you have any thoughts.
Well, I will refer back to, you mentioned you're creating your own restorative plan. And I think that is a key thing, because we are all different individuals and we have different interests and different ways that we live our lives. And so it's really important to have a personally aligned plan that helps you to have, again, a restorative lifestyle that benefits you and the earth or the environment. The two are not separate, it's all interconnected.
Mhm.
And remembering that can be really helpful. And it's helpful to have a community of people who are putting that into practice and working through that to kind of support you and help you through there, because it's a process. It's not like a one and done thing.
Yes.
It's ongoing.
We both know that for sure. Well, and thank you for those words. I think that's very helpful. And then again, that leads into what we'll be doing, and I'll be sending some emails to our community and some more resources in the next couple of weeks about how do you to create a restorative lifestyle plan. And I'm going to be hopefully publishing something bigger by June, but I'm going to be publishing pieces to the list, so that if you're with the list, you're going to be getting pieces of this restorative lifestyle planner. And one of them that I think is important is creating a resource map. And so that's what we'll be starting to talk about next week. And then we'll have a little bit of a challenge in April about how we start to put some pieces together. And we'll be doing a little bit more in May and throughout the rest of this year. So I hope that this was useful and helpful to any of you who watched it. It was fun to do with Lisa. I'm so glad to be able to connect with you through the beauty and magic of Zoom, from Seattle to the Chicago area, and out to whomever is watching this, wherever you are. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that your restorative lifestyle becomes more and more deeply satisfying. Thanks so much. I will stop the share there. I guess I could have stopped it before. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording. And we will, I hope, talk and see you again at some time soon.